Jerry, you're here. For those who don't know you, I don't know anybody who would be listening who doesn't know you, but just in case, who are you?
I hope there's people out there watching that don't know me. And I will tell you this: I feel like there are people that know of me,
Hmm.
but not many that know me. So
Interesting.
yeah, that's for sure. So, but I guess the question you asked, how was the energy
Yeah,
today?
yeah.
So okay, so I was just sharing with
You
you
didn't say who
guys,
you were though.
oh, who I am, but
Before we
yeah,
go into that.
yeah. So I put it this way: I'm just Jerry. I what I get to be, man. I am uh, a variety of life kind of guy, man.
Yeah, yeah,
And put it in it shows up in different forms, I guess. Entrepreneur by far.
for
I've
sure.
always had an entrepreneur spirit, so I get to do that in the world of things like real estate, being a DJ, entertainer, performer, and then in the world of financial services. Which actually, to me, I probably feel like most of the time when it comes to the world of money, it's like actually coaching and just providing mentorship.
Sure,
I
sure.
feel like most of the conversations I have are actually with other business owners.
Hmm.
So I found that I really love working with first generation business owners. One,
Good. I
because
like it.
that's like who I am, but that's
Hmm.
who I really connect with. And I feel like they have that biggest burning desire to do something different than it was done before them.
Yeah.
But they also lack a lot of the skill set, knowledge, and education on actually being a business owner. And that's why I love working with. It's not just people who think about things that need to get done, but the actual doers.
Doers.
Yeah,
That's
and these are the
good.
people that are actually out there doing it. So that's why I love working with in that world of the professional side.
And what is Ed Milet? Doesn't he say like you're most equipped to help the person you once were?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah, like that.
certainly.
So you going through, and I had somebody recently say to me, like the stupid tax, right? Like I've paid a lot of stupid tax, or in other words, I've messed up enough to know some things to maybe help you.
Yeah,
And so, like, I feel the same way. Like, who am I looking at? What am I doing? What has my journey been like? And
yeah.
identify with those people, and I feel like I can help a lot of people, but man, those are the ones I really hit home with.
Right. And those are the biggest areas that I feel like I'm the most impactful with people. Right. It's like actually being able to say, hey, I've made the mistakes that you've made before. Here's how I worked my way out of them or did not
Yeah,
repeat
yeah,
those mistakes. So learn from me and being able to help prepare you or get you past that because a lot of times it's actually when they're in the midst of it. And it's easy to like run from it, neglect it, avoid it, and just kind of hide from it. I think those are a lot of my own personal tendencies
mm-hmm.
on dealing with issues. Is just like, I'm gonna be so optimistic and excited about life that all my problems are just gonna go away. And I've heard it before, especially from people close to me. They're like, "It's like you're Peter Pan. It's
Right.
like you live in this place of
Tinkerbell,
just like
Tinkerbell, yeah.
everything is so good, like right." And I don't know, probably optimism is my Achilles heel in a sense. But I think it definitely helps to kind of give that silver lining when I'm working with people in different facets, man. Right? They're
Hmm.
going through just life or profession, and they need somebody there. I've been there. I've gone through it.
Yeah, and what's the alternative? Like
Yeah.
Jerry, you're always so down and melancholy and sad. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I like
Yeah.
being around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
what are you supposed to
Yeah.
do other than bring joy?
Yeah.
Does that mean there's not hard days? Like Andrew, you talk about all the time, like you never have a bad day,
Right.
but you do.
Well, no, I don't have a bad day,
Exactly.
but I'll
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
I could have a moment
A
in
bad
my day
moment.
that
Hmm.
I didn't like or didn't agree with however it went. But why you let that ruin your whole day?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
My
like,
daughter, she would have a picture in her bedroom and it had, right, like Snoopy and what's the little bird on there?
Woodstock.
Yeah,
Woodstock,
Woodstock. And it
yes.
said, it's a bad day, not a bad life.
Ooh,
Mhm.
that's good.
And
That's it's a
yeah,
Well,
bad,
it's
a
like
bad moment.
the thing. What is it? I forget what it is. Like, oh, there's so many minutes in a day, right? And like with that 1 minute,
yeah,
you're gonna out of thousands and thousands of minutes, however many minutes. I'm not gonna do the math, but
1440.
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had
1440 minutes.
$1,440 and somebody took $1, like, okay, I got
Like, throw it all away. This is
13,
terrible.
1439. Right. Yeah. You ruined the $1,400. No. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
But
yeah.
in the smallest sense, even when you ask that question, like, well, Jerry, like, who are you, Jerry? And
Sure.
what does you do? I had a close friend of mine. She's actually a high performance coach. We were just talking about performance, but she's a high performance coach. I was sharing an idea with her a couple years ago, and we were kind of getting to the root and just talking about like mission statement
Hmm.
of the activity. And she actually challenged me and she said, well, Jerry, what's the real mission? And I just sat there for a moment because on a surface level,
Sure.
like it was about business owners connecting people and things of that sort. And I just stopped in my tracks and I was like, you know what? There's another Jerry out there. And she was like, okay,
Hmm.
tell me more about that. I
Yeah.
said, there's another Jerry out there. I said, but here's the thing. And when I talk about and saying that people, maybe they know of Jerry, but they don't really know him. I feel like I keep my circles small and being able to open up that world or having a good judge of character. But, I think about when I say that, for me, it's the other Jerry that was that lost teenage kid that knew he was meant for something more,
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know how to achieve that. And there were people and mentors around me that kind of helped mold and bring that to life. But I don't think that I ever really had that belief system in me that I looked in the mirror and was like, man, that's what's possible. And that's to me kind of one of my personal life missions is there's another Jerry out there.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the individual, the business owner, the dad, the significant other, and I'm just like, there's so much more right there. And
Yeah.
I get it. Maybe you don't see it. And if I can help kind of pull that out of you, like that's what I want to do.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
it. It's funny as all this is happening, like again, no coincidences to me. And even as we're sitting here, I think about earlier with putting on mics
Hmm.
and lights and getting used to speaking. Like I would have probably when my glasses fell just a minute ago as I
Hmm.
was moving the mic forward, it would have been like, cut, let's start again because it wasn't perfect because
Right.
it used to be the wrong sense of performance. So if just so y'all know what we're talking about, Jerry pulls up in this super slick, like new whip, this new car, right? And it says on it performance. And as soon as I saw it, I thought about our conversation this morning. And I was like, it's so cool that there are actors who put on performances where they're playing other people. And I love that as we get further and further into who we are, right? It stops needing to be perfection as if it's a performance because we are actually doers. We're
Hmm.
performing who we are to the greatest capability we can, but we're not trying to be somebody anymore who we're not. And I almost say that to that young Jerry out there, like the biggest thing you might trip over is needing to be perfect or needing to perform in a way that you're not quite capable of yet. That it's better to move as you and make mistakes than it is to pretend to be perfect and not let anybody know there's mistakes that can be made.
Right. Right. And the crazy thing is, Matt, is like, it's like we, I don't know what we do to insulate ourselves into believing that people can't see that outside of us and
Mm-hmm.
everybody else can read it in the room, right? And so, I mean, even just looking back on myself, and I'm grateful that I have people that really love and care about the person and say, man, you know what? Like, it's like you've got to go through and walk your own journey of self discovery, maybe, and going through
Yes.
that. But then you've got people there that are like, man, I've always seen you in a different light, um, watch certain things, and we're just kind of like, man, I don't know. Like, doesn't seem like that's that person. Or maybe they're, like I said, got a facade on. There's a mask there for some reason. Um, but it's no different than I think we're all human. There's parts of us that kind of go through a lot of that.
And want the
Um,
acceptance of if through perfection,
yeah,
all of those things.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I think, and I go back to the same thing talking about like that. I was a very impressionable young teenage man. I mean, for a lot of different reasons. And it was so easy to become like a people pleaser and being like, well, who do I need to become to ultimately like be loved? Like that was
Sure.
really one of my root things, right?
Same thing.
So
Yep.
then I just show up and being like trying to figure it out. And in a sense, I would play it off again as this optimistic strength. I can be a chameleonaire. I can walk into any room and be liked by anyone or figure out whatever I need to become. And it was like, well, dude, like that's not who God made me to be. Like God made me to be and show up as myself, right? And I've seen that big transformation over the last few years. And now it's like not so much who do I need to become to be loved. First, I love myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
regardless. Like,
Yeah.
you know, all the things that I've gone through, mistakes that I've made, and just to find out ultimately, like, there are people on the other side. They're like, hey, we love that Jerry too. Like, so
Yeah.
because they've probably been there in their own life in some
It,
way.
it's funny. We both described ourselves as once chameleons, right? Like, because I could walk into any room and make you believe whatever I wanted you to. Like, I was just really good at words, and I was really good at doing that. Like, I'm not. that influential just walking into the room, but once I open my mouth, I can do
Hmm.
things in the room that and it was to blend in, but something that I just thought about right now is that I didn't change anything for anybody becoming who they wanted me to be, right? Like I didn't really start
Mm. Yeah.
impacting or changing the room until I walked in as me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I love the idea that I the more me I can be, the more I can help you, right? And we always go back to the I got like you said, I love myself, right? Like you love you. Like you've got
Yeah.
to be able to have that because if I'm not okay and I don't love myself, how am I going to give love to anybody else, right? Like we can't give what we don't have. And so I love the idea that and I say this almost, I say this all the time, it's not about me, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm not taking care of me, how can I be available for you? So
Right.
the only way I can make it about you is if I'm okay. So
Hmm.
I might have to back up from you. I might need to pause. I might need to do some things that look like maybe even a little bit selfish, but I've got to take that self time in order to be available for you,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. That brings, dude, one of the most profound questions recently that I've had posed to me, and it was in a coaching session, and for some reason this word just keeps coming up. But right now I'm going through a 12-week program, a high performance coaching program from
Hmm.
Brendan Bouchard
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
with a local coach here. Um, and we were talking about influence was the
Yeah.
category this particular week. But one of the questions was like, of the individuals that have had the most influence on your life,
Hmm.
what was it that they did that influenced you the most? And what we kept narrowing down was there was this common thread. The people that have had the biggest influence on my spiritual journey and my walk. I'm a Christian follower of Jesus Christ, and just that belief system, having men when I was 19, 20 years old that really poured into me. But that was what made the most impact. It
Hmm.
wasn't the like, oh, wow, that had the biggest monetary impact on my career, on
Sure.
my business.
Sure.
Hey, it got me this material thing, whatever the case might be. Like the most impactful, influential part, the individuals that stood out were the people that impacted my spiritual walk.
Yeah.
And
I
as
love
I
that.
even think about that, like that challenged me
Mm.
in just like the conviction of like, man, whoa, what am I doing? Like how am I having maybe that same impact? Could somebody say the same thing about Jerry Sauceda?
Sure. Sure.
They're like, yeah, Jerry provided maybe some guidance on helping my business, save on some tax strategies or things of that
Right.
sort,
It changed
or
everything.
becoming a better father. But
Yeah.
to really, literally, you could change somebody's um, eternal hope for their life. Like
That's huge.
that's yeah. What more significant impact could you have?
And I think it's funny going back to the perfection imperfection thing. Like the spiritual mentors that I've had, the reason why I think I was able to let go of the pride and who I thought I needed to be for everyone
Hmm.
is because they were vulnerable. And through their
Yeah.
vulnerability, it like, wait, if you can be broken and still follow Jesus, then maybe I can be broken and still follow
Right.
Jesus too. It was never through perfection or through like higher than thou. And I was just super blessed to just never, I still don't know anybody up close. Like I know people from a distance, but anybody up close that is so super righteous that you can't even communicate with them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
know they're out there, but I've just been blessed that I don't see that
Sure.
personally too much. And then even them, when I see it out there, I still feel a love for them. Like it's like through imperfection, I found Jesus, and now I get to stay in that mode of like I mess up all the time, but man, is my
Yeah.
desire His heart. And this just recently happened, and I know it's recent because we spoke on a panel not too long ago where I talked about gates, and for a long time, God has had me in this place of like understanding where my boundaries are, and as long as I stay in those boundaries, I can't mess up. But it's like recently, He opened the gate,
Hmm.
and I think and it's funny. So my tattoos, for anybody who doesn't know, it's called Fisher of Men. So it's Jesus bringing the word to the disciples who brought the word to the world, and then through prayer, chains break. And I came up with all of this, but the tattoo artist came up with the lighthouse because I was trying to find something like, and I was describing it. He goes, "Why don't we do a lighthouse?" And I thought, you know what, that's perfect. And I had actually
Hmm.
just done a sermon on lighthouses, so it was great. But it just now was revealed to me that what I have to do is now that I've spent enough time in the gates, because I'm not saying you should just go crazy. Like you go from a crazy drunkard, heathen person, or whatever you want to call yourself, right? A dope dealer, and then the next day you're out on the streets like with dope dealers preaching. God, that might be hard to do. Maybe you need to stay in the gates for a little bit, but when the gate is open, and now I see my journey as just staying close to Him. Like if as long as I stay close to Him, I'm still in the gates, if you will,
Hmm.
but it's freedom. Like I can move now because I don't have to be the chameleon anymore. And so because I know whatever room I go into, he's right there with me, and I'm bringing him in a way that lifts up who I am through him and glorifying him. And so there's more rooms I have access to than I used to. And so now it's not gates, it's staying close to him in whatever room he puts me in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I'm curious. So I would, Matt, because what what would you say to someone to help them recognize if they're a man that's sitting there and they're kind of going through what some of the stuff we're talking about, whether it's wearing a mask, having a facade, kind of wearing that superficial impression. And I know what that feeling's like is to go through your entire day being that chameleon. You get home and it's exhausting, man.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
tired. But how does someone recognize first that maybe they're going through that in life?
Well, I think that first, what you have to do before you try to figure out who you think you are, you have to identify who you really are. And the only way to really know that is you can't be your own foundation, right? So I can't start getting right with
Mm,
me until I have something to stand on, right? Because otherwise I'm moving, I'm always shaking. So until you know, and I'm a big Christ guy, right? So I'm not going to be able to give you a lot of answers that make sense if you're not a believer
sure.
or
Yeah.
whatever, right? I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I would say that in order to find out who you are, first you have to know who He says you are. And if you can find your identity in Christ, that's the way that you'll finally find your footing and then discover not only who He says you are, but what He's calling you to do.
Hmm.
And so if you're confused or you're not sure about things, like there's all kinds of writings, there's all kinds of things. Like there's a, I just read it to my son this morning. There, and y'all DM us, reach out to us, but there is literally a prayer guidebook that you read every single day over your life. And it tells you exactly who you are in Christ, what your finances are through Christ, whether you should fear or not fear, who you are. Like,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's about 8 minutes of out loud reading to yourself so that you walk into the world identified, right? Like no one can shake this, or like I have not been a good guy for very long. Like 2013 my life changed, but I've been around since 1978, right? I've had a lot of time to not be the guy that I am right now. And even in the calling, I think about the things I didn't do right. And
Yeah.
like, hey, what could come out? I don't know what could come out. There's nothing that I hide. Like anything that did good or bad, like it's an open book. And I even think about the challenges of what if somebody said that, or what if somebody said that, like, yeah, no, that's not a lie. I did those things.
Hmm.
Like that
Hmm.
that is but through Jesus. And I think about CBC Church and how Pastor Ed would always go, the worst people I know go to
Go to
CBC. It's
CDC.
like that's right,
Yeah.
because before we found Jesus, we weren't who we are right now. And so going back to if you're kind of on the rails, like I think I'm a good person, I don't really know, what do I do? I gotta be a chameleon. I need to feed my family or myself if I'm single, like the answer to it is it may sound cliche or weird or whatever, but like you got to identify yourself in Christ first. Who does He say you are, and then watch what He does.
Yeah. I like that thought. I really like that. I've worked, and then, maybe for a lot of people, they kind of struggle on knowing like, okay, well, what are those things? I would beg to offer and share and kind of done this. I've got a daughter who's in college, and that's a very like, you know, self discovery kind of time. And like, what do I want to do? You feel like you got to figure out your entire life, or so many people asking that question, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that I've shared with her, I think that have worked with me, or even gaining clarity for anybody else, kind of where they're at, and you can apply this. It's pretty simple. Is well, what are you not?
That's good.
Okay,
We've said that a lot in
because
this office.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's easy to identify for sure. Like, and I think if that's one of the core things you're getting down, like, well, who is Jerry? Who is Matt? You could probably, even if that might be like, well, who did God make me out to be? Who am I in my truest form? But if you were probably living in a sense where you could look in the mirror or go about your day and be like, that's not really Jerry.
Yes. Yes.
That's it. Just doesn't. I want to say it doesn't feel right, but you're the spirit. To me, the Holy Spirit is the one that's convicting. It's just saying, like, giving you that little, for somebody out there that's saying that maybe they're not a believer or whatnot. It's just they're like, there's something, right? That something is the Holy Spirit. I remember for the longest time, I was like, what is that thing? What is that thing that's just kind of like, it's, I don't know. It's not, it's just giving me that, it's not a tangible thing right there, but I just doesn't seem, it doesn't sense right. I think that's God's discernment through the Holy Spirit of telling you, right? Like, that's not the thing, right?
Yeah, I love it. And what that makes me think of is who you're not, and I would say anymore, right? Because maybe at one point in your
Mm,
life, like it's
yeah.
hard to say, I didn't do that because you did. The
Mm-hmm.
symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
the consequences of that still exist, right? But you have to decide, are you still going to be that person tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I think of it like a funeral, right? Like that dude's dead. You know what I mean? Like no,
Mm-hmm.
no, Matt did that, but that Matt is
Yeah.
dead. And
Yeah.
so to say like, no, no, I know the thought, and I've looked there before, and I've been in that room, but that dude is dead.
Yeah.
This dude doesn't do those things anymore.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to almost like have a funeral.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
declare that day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As like this is the day
Yeah.
everything changes. And will I mess up again? Absolutely.
Right.
But that dude's dead. I have to forgive myself, right? I gotta let myself move past the things that happen because I'm not a performer anymore. I perform. I
Mm-hmm.
I, I have
Mm-hmm.
performance, right? Bringing it back to that, like there, you can't keep acting and then
Yeah.
really impact and
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
people, right?
That's a, I've been legally divorced twice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's even hard enough to say it is, and people's looks, right? But and I've literally probably I could say I've been divorced 3 times because me and my daughter's mom, we were never legally married, but we were common law marriage,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for me, when I think about that, it's like I don't deny that. And actually, if anything, part of my testimony is like the best divorce that I've gone through is divorcing my old self,
Yes, that's good.
for sure. Like I feel like that was a landmark moment relationship that was like, hey, that needed to be cut off, moved on. And that was probably a thing that I just, it was hard to deal with, and knowing like, man, not only going through that, but it's like going through it again, like, and you can definitely let it become like your identity and overwhelming in a sense of like divorce is just like defeat. It is synonymous with feeling like I've just failed time and time again. And it's so significant, right? But to recognize like, hey, there was a part of me that needed to be to die to get divorced and moved on from. And I want to ask you that now, Matt, though, because if anything, and going back even to like the performance, like underlying thing there is like, hey, I really feel like God moved me from a place of like, hey, I did not only deliver you from that old you, but because I got so many new you things coming up. So talking to the person, I feel like y'all have done an incredible job looking at everything you, your family, your wife as a father, but really helping people to say, you know what, God didn't just get us to a place of like you've been forgiven,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what, I've given you so much more. Like live in a place of abundance, actually.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone that's kind of in that place? Because I feel like I see a lot of that too, right? People get through breakthrough, but they never go beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. So the beyond is, and we're not Michael Jordan, right? But that's just the easiest thing that I can think of, like our Kobe Bryant. Like the beyond is getting to the place and not backing up. I would say that's what I see so often is people get breakthrough and they're like, "Yes, I did it." And then they go back to who they were and they don't
Mm,
wake up and they don't do the things and they don't go through the practices that got them to the place they would be. So I would say do what you love or what you know to the best of your ability until God opens other doors for you, right? But don't forsake what brought you to where you are. And I think that
yeah.
happens so often. And because I'm not doing this for me. Like every morning, I want my children to see me reading the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Every morning, I want my wife to know I'm in this with her, right? Like every day is purpose because it's not for me. Like my son today, I'm driving him to school, and every once in a while I'll call him Bubba's, right? And I
Hmm.
didn't know this. He told me today, "Hey, Dad, can you not call me Bubba's?" And I was like, "What? I've been calling you Bubba's your whole life." He goes, "I know, I just don't like it." I was like, "All right, you're 9. Like, what do you want to be called?" And he goes, "Child of God." I was like, "Child of God?" Like there's a lot of things. Like, how about I just call you Abe, right? He's like, Abe works. But it's like, because these kids don't think of it as like, is this real? Or is this something that I work in? They know. Alicia was talking the other day about my daughter was journaling, which she's 13 and she's journaling. Like I wasn't even thinking, what's a journal when you're
Yeah,
13,
yeah.
right? So she's journaling, and the question was, tell me something that you know to be true. And she said, I know Jesus is real. He's coming back when the 7 trumpets sound. Like that's what that like she didn't sit like, I wonder what I think
Right.
is like that's just what came out of her. And like I'm not like my kids, that's great that that's going on with my kids, but that's the impact I want all of us to have on the world. And it's don't get me wrong, it's not just like I want people to know who God is, and but like yes, yes, all of that, but like it's because of the things we're talking about right now. Like, how do you help people? And I was given this thing that I still don't even come close to understanding. But if I can just stay obedient to
Hmm.
it, like watch abundance upon abundance, like glory to glory to glory. And I would just say consistency with the relationship of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude,
So
what a testimony. I mean, I love that answer that you talked about with your daughter.
yeah,
That, what do you believe to be true? I mean, like you said, without skipping a beat, I mean, you could be like, yeah, the sky is blue.
yeah,
I believe that to be true.
yeah,
But something that you've just to hold on to a truth that you're like, no one's ever just, here you go. I don't necessarily can have a way to prove his existence. It's just a truth on another level,
and
right?
then here's like even the it gets weird because even the supernatural stuff like my son Corbin, he's 23 now. When he was like 18, I think 17, 18, we were at a friend's house and my car broke down, like in the
Mm-hmm.
driveway it broke down,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't know what it was. Turns out it was the starter, right? And there's like if you try to jump it or try to do something right, but it wouldn't come on. And so I call Alicia and we're about ready to go on a trip. And so I'm talking to Alicia, Corbin's in the car, and Alicia says, "Well, did you pray for it?" And I'm like, like babe,
That look.
I'm like, I get it, right? Like, of course we should pray for the car, right? But I didn't. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna pray for it. And literally with her on the phone, with Corbin sitting there, I put my hand on this car that we've been working on for 30 minutes to try to get started. And I prayed, Lord Jesus, I just need to get this car home so we can figure out what's going on with it. Please help this car
Yeah.
start. Group started up. I was like, we were both like, what in the world just happened? And Alicia's like laughing, right? We get there, we go, and we had to make one more stop. But I was like, I'm not turning this thing off. One more stop, home. We got home, it was off again. But it got us home, and it didn't make the guy who was
Yeah.
with us is literally a motorcycle mechanic, like knows about cars. There's nothing that should have started this car. So when you ask Corbin if Jesus is real,
Mm-hmm.
there is you can't like it doesn't matter what your theology is, it doesn't matter what you've been through, it doesn't matter how much science you know, like you
Yeah.
cannot convince
Yeah.
that person
Yeah.
that Jesus and the supernatural power of Jesus is not real.
Yeah.
Like it's too big in our lives to ignore.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Hey, so as you bring up talking about the kids, I'm curious what was Matt like around those ages when you're talking about your son and your daughter?
Yeah.
If we could meet little Matt, what was that like?
Yeah, dude. Jacked up guy. So I will say this. For some reason, my spirit has always not let me get too far into who I could have been as a bad person. And I can remember things like hoodlums, right? We were all hoodlums and we ran around terrorizing the streets. But like if somebody made a mess, I would
Hmm.
stay behind and clean it up, right? If somebody broke a bottle, I'd be like, "Hey, let's get a broom." Right? I don't know
Sure.
why. I didn't like things to be left unkept, even though I was breaking into people's houses and stealing stuff. I didn't want it to be messy,
God.
right? Like I'm telling you, like I wasn't a good kid, but for some reason in it, I always
Hey, you
wanted
cleaned up the
Yeah.
evidence.
some kind of order, right?
Statute of limitations is
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so like I was not a great kid, but also I didn't have the same upbringing. Like my parents, I think they found Jesus when my dad was in Germany in the army. They found Jesus, and then they used Jesus as a crutch to get through their pain. Which
Mm,
sometimes you need that, right? Sometimes, but the problem is just like what you talked about before. As soon as they got okay, then my dad was like, "I can have another drink. That's fine." And my dad was an alcoholic. And
mm,
so that drink, and then so my life went probably, I don't know how old I was, 7 or 8 years old, like church and blah, blah, blah. Like we didn't have Christmas trees because Christmas trees are pagan. And, we were like,
sure.
it was all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Right. So I knew who Jesus was, but it was almost like bedtime stories.
Hmm.
Right. Because
Hmm.
my parents didn't really believe it. They just lived by a set of rules.
Right.
Right. And then as soon as that broke, it went from like, quick this and that and everybody's everywhere and no family, and so I went very quick from like this what I thought was super tight family trips to I was staying on friends couches and stuff, like from the time I was probably 12, 13. Like I've always been just a floater, right? Like
That
wherever.
early?
Oh yeah, yeah, because my
Wow.
parents, so I don't know exactly what happened. There's some kind of like potential infidelity or not infidelity, but there's some story that happened.
Hmm.
And so my parents split, and when they split, like they really split. And so my mom took off and just left us with my dad, who alcoholic dad.
Sure.
And so I
Yeah.
split. Like I took off. I lived with some friends of mine in like 2 or 3 communities over. And so, man, the person I feel the worst for is my little sister, because my older sister got to go be with her friends. I got to be with my friends, but my younger sister didn't have anybody to go to. So it
Hmm.
was her and a German Shepherd, like 8 days a week, right? Like
Yeah.
like all
Yeah.
like we would go back to the house, and I'm like, you didn't let the dog out? Like she wouldn't let the dog in the backyard, so the dog would just use the
Mm.
bathroom in the
In the
house.
house.
And
Mm.
then my little sister is living in that, so she basically lived in one little bedroom in this thing. Like CPS definitely should have been called, right? But it was a really tough situation. But I went from super tight little family to like this super lostness where friends were the answer and whatever you need to do. I was super super blessed. I know it was God's hand. Like even getting in trouble, like I got caught doing something for the dumbest reason. I wound up going to juvenile, and then when I got out, I was on probation, and I was like, well, I don't want to be in trouble all the
Yeah.
time, right? And so having to take like P tests and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I went into ROTC
Okay.
because I got to go stand in front of a judge with a uniform on as this hooligan guy, and there's like, seem like a nice kid because I'm like this normal looking kid, right?
Right.
So, and especially with an ROTC uniform on, and but that little crack into wanting to trick the judge, right, into thinking I'm a good kid, I found like a community, and that I would say that's what saved me was the community instead of like gangsters, like literally gangsters, to this community of people who all were after this one mission. Like most of them wanted to go into the
Hmm.
military, or at least they wanted stuff on their transcripts, and I'd never cared about stuff like that before. So the community of ROTC changed me into somebody who drill team and teaming up and knowing rules behind things. It put me on a trajectory to where I remember getting out of high school and I did little odd in jobs, but when I looked at that guy in the mirror, I still don't know why, but I knew that guy would make $1 million one year.
Mm.
Like and back then, million
Hmm.
dollars was a big
Hmm.
deal, right? It
Yeah.
still is, but I'm
Yeah.
saying like I knew, I don't know how, because I remember one time I was literally in somebody else's single wide mobile home in Tomball, Texas, and I was talking to some
That's a
people.
statement in itself, right
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
there.
And I was in the back of a truck. Like I had noticed this when I was in the house. I came out of the truck, out, and like 8 of us piled in the back of a pickup truck, and we were just talking. And I was like, I'm gonna make $1 million one day. And they're like, how? I don't. I think I worked at a convenience store at the time or
Hmm.
something. They're like, how are you going to? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I'm gonna make $1 million. It's like of any of us, you're probably the one who would make a million. So that's just always. I've always wanted things to be neat, and I've always known I'd be successful. I
Yeah.
just didn't know how, and
Yeah.
God brought it out.
To that point, I'm curious. So, when did you start recognizing like the gifts and talents that God had given you? Like, do you clearly know, like, man, those are the gifts and talents that are God given?
Yeah, I mean, it again. It's vulnerable, right? In this conversation, it's
Hmm.
like I was able to talk girls into doing things. Like I'm not a
Dude,
good looking
I would,
kid, right?
I was about to like fist bump you like on that because I can attest to that. I
Yeah.
know what you can play the script in your mind before it's actually said, and we're like, okay, I
Yeah.
know how I can steer this conversation. Okay, but go ahead, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, and what I would say is that my gifting, if you will, is I again I believe spiritual things. Like I believe I have some empathic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can sense and feel how other people feel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not common, right? And so I'll do little things for people. Like me and Alicia are in marriage counseling, right? We're like, we want to make sure this thing that we've got, we work on it because I don't ever want it to get to a bad
Yeah,
spot.
yeah.
But even in there, like I'm with a licensed professional guy, right, who's able to help, right? And I noticed that he probably needs a tissue or something because he's winking his eye a little bit. And so I go and I grab, and it's like nothing I should be paying attention to, but he was uncomfortably trying not to break what
Uh,
we were doing. And so instead of saying what he wanted, like I'm just always like, oh, there's something he needs, and let me figure out what he needs. And I'll look at him like almost like a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing. Like I'm investigating. He's uncomfortable. Why?
mm-hmm.
And it's because I didn't notice his eye until I noticed he was uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I'm always doing that. And then so when it comes to people, if you're able to tell what they're sensing, it's like, don't say that, say this. She liked that. You know what I mean? It's like, so I would say maybe that's how I honed this skill in.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
my mom too, she wouldn't tell us what she wanted. We just had to know. It's like, hey, give me that, come on, you know what? And so I had to
Yeah.
like always guess, like, what are you talking about? And I would go, cup? And she's like, yeah, yeah, give me the cup. Like, so it was like, I was almost trained to realize what somebody wanted before they ever asked for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the skill part of it. And because of that, I would say I form deep relationships really quickly. And as God's shown me who I am more and more, I tend to sit across the table from people, and that same influence I used to have over getting them to give me what I want, um, Jesus gives me things to say that then bring what they're really
Yeah.
feeling out.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like in a sense, like as you describe all those things, it's very childlike. Like
Oh,
you
for
could put
sure.
kids in a setting, right? Like if I could totally see like one kid being like, "Dude, are you literally calling it out? Are you all right? You look uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right?"
Does
Like
that hurt? It's
just
like, no,
it.
yeah.
But as we grow older, right, we're like conditioned. We lose some of that because we're more worried.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of weird. What are they gonna think? Like, blah blah blah. And it's like, you put children in a room, right? Either they're gonna just say what they're thinking, right, or they're gonna address something they just see because it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, but just addressing the need. So I loved. I've witnessed that about you time and time again in different settings, and we could be in a room where it's like everybody else could notice it. Nobody's gonna want to say or do anything, and then there's Matt who's like gonna say or do something, and it's like, dang, like yeah, that's what we needed.
But it's so fun, and now I don't have to be in front of people. The other day I was on the phone with a like caller, right? So I'm talking to her, and I could tell there's just something heavy on her, right? Through a phone. I don't see her, but through a
Yeah.
phone. And I was like, something amazing is gonna happen this weekend for you. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, I don't know. I'm telling you, like, you need to be praying about it, like something. And she's like, oh my gosh, and you like, she was like sobbing over the
Mm-hmm.
phone because she felt this thing, like this angst, this anxiety on her shoulders, and like giving her a helpful expectation. I told her like, hope for it, believe for it, like say it out loud, like something's good. And I have no idea, right? But
Yeah.
in those moments, like I knew that God was trying to say to her, like, head up, you got this.
Mm.
Like, be expecting something
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I know without a doubt something amazing happened. I
Right.
didn't. I'll never have a chance to talk to her again. But I know without a doubt that he did something for her to show her who she was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those, and then that's way like girls and influencing people and friends. Like the thing that I love in life is being able to show people the supernatural, like hope of God.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
those, like I've witnessed so many people in front of me just start breaking down crying, and I didn't even know, like Angie, right? Like
Mm.
I don't even know what I said, but they're just like God encounters them in that moment, and then they think it's me, and they're like, Matt, I need another Matt moment. I'm like, you don't need a Matt moment. You need to get like that's available to you all the time. If you want to come talk to me, sure, but that is God entering into your being and saying, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that stuff. Like giving is so much better than receiving. And I know that's even like a cliche thing, but I'm telling you, like, I don't get me wrong, I love the abundance in my life, like getting to do the things and go to the places, but I realize it's for him to bring out who he's calling me to be in a way that helps other people.
Right.
And so like giving is so much fun. Like handing somebody the keys to a car,
Mm-hmm.
dude, and like not just the
Yeah.
keys, like you're not borrowing this. Here's the keys and here's the title. Like and like,
Belongs to you.
but wait, but do I have like no, nothing, right?
Yeah. No conditions.
Or what's even better than that is like as something as simple as it's way less expensive, but something as simple as paying for somebody's meal and just leaving, like on the way out. And we've had people track us down before, like because they found that like whose card it was on, and then looked on social media and they're like, "Do you know what we were going through that day? Like we were waiting for an answer, and then you paid for our meal. How'd you know?" And we're like, "Didn't know. We just paid for your meal." Yeah. So it's like those things that are just so much more fun than getting somebody.
And what
to
I
do
love
something
is
for
like,
you.
even if they weren't going through anything, it wasn't because of that. Because you're like, I think like,
Yeah.
right, I'm reading the writing on the wall or something. I'm trying to like, it doesn't matter, right? So
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to know from it because I've seen a lot of growth from Andrew, and y'all have obviously a really special connection. I'm big on, whether it's mentorship, it's being in just proximity with
Hmm.
some of that. But Andrew, like, what have you seen for yourself personally? Because I've known you since high school. We've known each other for over 20 years now. We've worked together. We've grown together. We've seen our families progress together. We've had moments where we've struggled together, right? Um, Having someone around like Matt, what's probably some of the biggest things like you've learned spending time around Matt and Alicia, both personally and professionally?
Well, throughout the conversation so far, I would first start with like spiritually, because when we're talking about the power of influence or the gifts or whatnot, like what I've received from Matt, and not only Matt, but like, when I first started to encounter like being born again and going to Faith Life Church and people like Robert and Pastor G, like it's just showing up in love like Jesus, where you can have that connection with other people that are non-believers or they're not born again yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it's different whenever you're like in alignment. Like I was talking to Justine and Alina this morning about whatever it was. We're talking about manifestation, right? And how manifestation. I listened to Bryce. Have you seen the young guy? He's on TikTok. He's a street past preacher or whatever.
That's
Have to
cool.
look him up.
Anyway, he's I like his stuff, and what he said, and this is where I'm getting to the point, was he said, I don't manifestation works, but I don't see it as a good thing, because manifestation essentially gives you like what you want, but the enemy wants you to have things to distract you from seeing what Jesus has for you.
Sure, sure.
He's like, so instead of manifesting, I believe, and if Jesus does or doesn't give me what I'm believing for, it's for my benefit. It's not to harm me, right? And then then I was like, I got into this, I was doing like I was pastoring at my house, like that's what we're supposed to do.
Amen.
And I was like, if I want to get better at pickleball, like I got to show up. I got to show up to at the pickleball court. I'm not going to get better if I don't show up. If I want to be a better follower of Christ, I got to be in the Word. I can't preach that God is good, and that's just all I say. I got to know. I mean, I don't got to know. I believe, but I got to be like in the reps, like the Kobe Bryant, like the Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be good for anybody. So that's kind of really, like, to sum it all up, what I receive from Matt. Like, he walks like Jesus as much as he physically can in the natural.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what Jesus did, right? Like, we was talking about Pastor Ed. I just saw a Pastor Ed clip, this morning too, talking about just about what you said. CBC has the worst people. He's like, well, I'm glad that Jesus was with the worst people, the tax collectors and the sinners and the thieves and the this and this and that, because Jesus shows up and his love is just so powerful that it changes you, and the
Yeah.
same encounters you have with these individuals, like just the way you look at me. Like if you watch the Chosen series, and it's, you know, it's just a depiction of Jesus, but like the way he looks at Mary Magdalene in the first encounter in the bar, in the tavern, you're like, his eyes are like, holy moly, like this is just like, is changing you.
Yeah.
And that's just from a glance.
Yeah.
So
That's such a good, like the phrase that stuck out to me, as you said, like showing up in love.
mhm.
And I feel like if people associated something with the Calf Crew, that would probably be one of those things they would say.
I believe
Man,
that. Yeah.
they show up in love.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like the spirit, the way you carry yourselves. You walk into the room, and it's like, whether you know Andrew or not, you're just like, that's a friend.
Yep.
Right. There's just, but what I mean by that is, like, it's not even just like in a loose context. What I mean by friend is, like, one, you feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's very, very important, right? You don't ever feel like intimidated, aggression. You feel comfortable. You feel like those facades actually just like drop.
Sure.
You're like, okay, I can be real with this
Mhm.
person, just the way you would be like, man, this is my friend. They actually really know me. So if I'm fake, they're gonna call me out and be like, wait, who are you? Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that first impression, immediately, I feel like Andrew is one of those people that walks into the room. You're like, you know what, man, I can just be myself. Like, because Andrew's just himself, and there is no like distinction or difference between him showing up, Cav Crew or Pickleball Court or Faith Alive Church, right? And I love that about you guys. So
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of growth in that, and the power of influence. I mean, like I'm sure your spirit, Matt, and this environment, the things that y'all are feeding off of each other, just like what you talked about, Andrew, and
Mhm.
saying, hey, if I'm going to be a representation, well, then it starts with me. If everybody in the room that you're with has that same focus, right? Everybody's working on themselves. Like, hey, I just know it's gonna rub off on the people around me. I mean, that's a great place to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh.
one of a super powerful thing that happened to us is we were sitting in a church one time in Louisiana, and Alicia and I were broke, like broker than broke, right? But we're in the church, and they had an offering, right? Like, and it's like, oh well, we don't really have any money. We've already done our offering, and we don't have any more to give to this church that we don't normally go to. And these people randomly, we didn't even know them. They're like, hey, we want to offer this with you, right? Will you basically, so we all held hands over the offering, right? And we didn't know this, but they had like this big company in Dallas, and they're very wealthy. So
Mhm.
I have no idea how much was in that, but I know that things started to change after that for us.
Mm.
Like it was like whether it was actually the amount they gave or just the idea of us being a part of something bigger than just Alicia and I alone. And it's funny how that's come over to this. Like the people who trust us to help them with mortgages, the agents who send us the mortgages, like they're a part of something that as we close these deals and we get paid and we get paid well,
Mhm.
we give a lot, right? And so they, without even knowing, are they're with us
Right.
on that journey. And we think about that in the office, like when we say we're going to do everything we can to help these clients, and then we're going to leave it to God. And the manifestation of God's power over loans that probably shouldn't close but do, and we don't know how. Like wording gets put just right, things happen, stuff gets cleared, and we're like, what in the world just happened? And the only thing we can relate it back to is like the like the things that we believe in this office. And so then, since you helped us make money, you're a part of giving to the kingdom of God
Yeah.
through us. And so that connection is just, it's so powerful when you think about who we are as connectors to the community, to families, to God. Like there's a lot
Right.
of power that comes out of this little
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
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 And I know you got to get
Yeah.
to
I
a
know I've
meeting.
got an upcoming meeting, so yeah.
This has been awesome.
Yeah.
This has been so fun.
Yeah.
I knew that if we sat down, the three of us like this, like we're gonna need like 4 hours. I'm glad that you have to be somewhere, so
probably
that
do.
we're
Yeah.
just gonna be able to keep going.
We'll block out a day next time.
Right? Yeah. But this is super
Yeah, I
cool.
think when Andrew reached out, we were trying to look on the calendar. It's like, I think I've got 47 minutes I can squeeze in right here between these things. So,
Good luck.
um,
But it's good. We got a timer.
yeah.
So hey, bro, thank you,
Yeah.
man. This has been so good.
I'll have to come
Andrew.
back again for sure.
Yeah, we'll get another
Yeah.
one.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Thank
Thank
you,
y'all.
guys.
Bye.